A dream, and I'm going to get started this way. So listen to that heart, and make sure and take those baby steps to make your dream come true. Because yeah, money is great and to have these grand events, but you can make things happen. You can make things happen in out of the box ways, and that's what I'm doing. With this event, I do want to call out that we have EPEC here. EPEC, raise your hand. EPEC is going to be a speaker at that in-person event, which I'm so grateful. We have Tim, raise your hand, Tim. Tim Sohn is another speaker at the in-person event. We have Cleo, Miss Cleo. Miss Cleo was one of the, actually, she was at my very first rally when I kicked this off and I had no idea what I was doing, June 2020. And she was one of my first speakers. So I am so humbled and honored to have her as a speaker at the first event. And there's so many other speakers, but also a lot of great supporters here because they are supporting this person that had a crazy dream. And yet we are all here 2 years later. So follow your dreams because they can come true. So with that said, I want to introduce you to our first speaker. Our first speaker is Joseph. Joseph, I just recently really met not too long ago. We've commented on each other on LinkedIn on several content. And Joseph was one of those initial supporters that I had another crazy idea of on LinkedIn. Why not every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 in the morning for just 15 minutes, I just do something called 15 minutes of kindness. So I just started going on and giving an environment and holding a space for people to give a shout out to others or to companies or associations or nature or whatever that made them smile. Again, it was something that wouldn't leave my mind and that I just jumped on and started doing. And Joseph was one of the first people that came to those 15 minutes of kindness that I started just a few weeks ago. Joseph had such amazing insight and positivity to share that it really is a reason why I decided I want to keep doing these things because it's a learning moment for me as well. And speaking of Joseph, he does have a lot of speaking experience. He's a positive impact creator. It says on LinkedIn that you're a top person ambassador, which fascinates me. And you just seem to be bringing out the best in others. Even those 15 minutes of kindness, I could see how people were resonating with everything that you were saying. So Joseph, it's a pleasure and honor to have you here.
Hey, good morning, Andrea. You've said so much in the last 10 minutes. There's so much power in what you've spoken, so much depth. I feel your passion, and everything that you've said definitely resonates with my life and the way I lead and the way I empower, inspire, and motivate everybody that I come in contact with. To me, you brought it up, hope and kindness. The depth that if you really analyze what hope is in one's life, you know, a lot of people, when we throw it around, a lot of people will say, oh, don't get your hopes up high. What did they just set themselves up for? To not get to where they want to go. So when I hear somebody tell me, hey, don't get your hopes up high, I immediately go into my zone and I say, listen, if you don't want to get your hopes up high, I can understand where you're coming from, but why don't we turn it around a little bit? Why don't we get our hopes higher so that we can excel within ourselves and grow to achieve our hope, our dreams, our visions, and our missions in life? Because if I myself wake up every day and I lower my life standards, how far is that going to get me to where I want to go? You know, your dreams, we all have our dreams. We all have our vision. We all have somewhere where we want to go in life. So if from the onset of our day, we put in our mind negative thoughts, negative ideas, the hardness that we're not going to be able to accomplish our minimal or our slow wins to get to where we want to go, how successful are we going to be, at least in that immediate moment or in that day? On the contrary, if I wake up every morning and I push myself and I say, I can, I will, I must, I'm going to win, I'm going to take my life to that level. And every moment, every breath that I take, every pulse rate that I have is for one thing, to make sure that I become a better version of myself so that I can help out anybody and everybody that I come in contact with on a daily basis. The power that we have within us to be who we are is unlimited to what we have to offer the world. And as we know, within the last 3 years, life has changed dramatically. And we give credit to, not credit, but a terrible occurrence, the pandemic, the COVID, things are transitioning, they're changing at speed like that we don't even understand. But you know what's the biggest factor within the COVID? Yes, it's terrible that people have passed away, but people right now are going through mental challenges and they're suffering in silence because of something that you said, they have no one to turn to. So the platform that we've created, that's been created here, gives us the ability to impact the world. I like to say, and you've heard it before, I want to change lives. I want to impact the world by the way I carry myself, the things that I do for everybody else, and I want to change the world. And when you make a statement like that, a lot of people say, well, you know, they get a little bit out of their zone. But I say, no, it's not as the way you view it. If you can impact one person's life on a daily basis, and you do that 365 days a year, you've just changed 365 lives. Imagine 10 people, 3,650. Imagine 100 people. So if you start taking it, like you said, your small wins, and you build momentum off of your small wins, you can rest assured that you're going to be impacting so many people on a daily basis that it's going to be life-changing. And that's my motto. I'm going to change the world with one kind gesture at a time. And you know what? I'm going to get started here for you, Andrea. I'm relentless in my pursuit to make this world a better place, because I understand I've been blessed over and over and over and over in my lifetime. And there's nothing in this world that's going to stop me from blessing the rest of the world and have a profound and positive impact on their everyday life. Because I've been given this gift that I can talk, that I can speak, and that I can empower everybody that I come in contact with. And I'm going to continue to push forward, and I'm going to have an impact on people's lives. And no, we understand that the struggle is real. Because when I was a kid, my parents came to this country in 1955 and 1957. They didn't understand the language. They had a second grade level education. Me and my brothers and sisters were born in the USA, but my parents worked for 25 cents an hour in factories, sometimes 24 hours a day. And they were coming home with a $15 check, and they had 3 children to feed. So when you talk about challenges, when you talk about overcoming hurdles, when you talk about getting around life and becoming resilient throughout your lifetime, my dad always told me, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you are. Number one, you respect yourself. Number two, you never let anybody tell you that you can't achieve your dreams. And number three, you become resilient and you fight on no matter what obstacles you encounter in life. And yes, throughout my childhood, I've made terrible mistakes in my life. Bad decisions, had to overcome a bunch of hurdles, ran with the wrong crowd, and all those things were part of my, what I call my life's journey that have led me to who I am today. And when I reflect back on my life, and I know I said, man, why should I have changed? I could have changed those occurrences. I could have made that different decision or choice. But you know what? No, that wasn't in my book of life. My book of life was to go through all that so that I can become that person that I am today, so that I can go ahead and impact the world in a positive way. Because like I've said before, there's nothing's going to stop me. I'm a life-changing speaker. I'm going to change lives. I'm going to make everybody understand that if they have anything that they need to be heard, that they need to be listened to, that they need somebody there, they can come to see Joseph. I'm going to be there for them. And believe me, once we get together, there's nothing going to stop me from letting them live the best life that they can live. And it doesn't matter who they are, where they come from. We are ready to change the world. And I'm going to take it one step at a time, because hope and kindness the best thing about both of those is very simple. They're free to give. So when I hear people not being kind or being unkind and not being the way that they should be towards the next person, or holding resentment, or just being overall disrespectful, to me, that's an injustice to what a human being should be. Because it doesn't matter where we're from, how we got here, if we're from anywhere else, the number one thing that we have to do is understand that we are all one thing, human beings, and that we must be polite, respectful, encouraging, motivating, inspirational towards each other, because we already have enough challenges in life. Why not use the powers that we have to bring out the best of each other? So during our life's journey, we get to understand this. And obviously, when we're a little younger, we don't view it the same, obviously, now throughout your life. That's why they call it life's experiences. You take your life in different ways. You view things a lot different. You become a little older, you get a lot of knowledge, and you get a lot of these things that you throw in your mental bank, that now you say, now I have the ability to understand and reason why the things that I've done in the past, the decisions that I've made in the past, have helped me to where I am today. Because the biggest thing about life is every day we have learning moments. And those that are open to learning on a daily basis are the ones that will continue to grow and prosper as individuals and be able to help out others. Because the first thing that we have to look, and I used this morning, is clean our house. And a lot of people say, clean your house. What do you mean by that? Not the broom, not the windows, not the dishes, even though that's great to do on a daily basis, but clean your mental house. Because like I've spoken, if we wake up every morning and we fill our house with negative thoughts, negative ideas, and we surround ourselves with all the negative folks, and we listen to, oh, Joseph, you can't do this. You won't get that position. You'll never speak in front of 10,000 people. You won't get to where you want to go. I've just set myself up on a daily basis to be the most unsuccessful individual during that day. But if I clean out my house and every morning I surround myself with, like the panel that we have here, Andrea, and they start motivating me, they start empowering me, they start inspiring me, and I myself believe in myself and I empower myself as well, what are the chances that I'm going to be more successful throughout my day and throughout my life, so that I can go ahead and help the rest of whoever I come in contact with? I have a strategy or a question that I always throw out when I speak in front of people, and it's very simple. And I ask this in front of crowds, and I get different responses, but I get the idea and I get a feel for where they're coming from. And it's very simple, 3-word sentence. Who are you? When I ask a lot of folks, who are you? They've never taken the time to really assess who they are. So when I hear them say, you know what, I really haven't looked at that. I really haven't found myself. Okay, now we have somewhere where we can start working with you to understand you a lot better and to get to know where we have to take you so that you can start living the life that you deserve to live. Because we all understand a life that you deserve to live is what you do want to live. I can't live under anybody else's terms, and I don't want anybody to live under my terms. I want everybody to live under the best version of themselves under their terms. But don't get me wrong, I want to make sure that under their terms is a happy, fulfilled, driven, relentless, diligent, successful person. If I can help you get to that point in your life, then we understand that, number one, we're in the right path. We're on the right path to getting you to where you are. One of the other things that I like to talk about is dreams, because I think dreams, so many folks underestimate the power of their dreams. And to me, without a dream, you have nowhere to go. So when they tell me, I'll sit up there and I'll tell someone, no, because I dream about this. Oh, but your dreams are too big. So I'll take a step back and I'll tell them, okay, let's analyze why you say my dreams are too big. So when they start going back and forth about my dreams, after they're done, I'll tell them, look, I respect everybody. I understand my dreams will never be too big. What I tend to think is that small thinkers will never dream big. So I want to have the ability to encompass and get your life where it needs to go so that you can achieve your dreams on a daily basis. Because if I don't set my dreams way out far, then I'm gonna choose to set them close, so close that when I attain my dreams, I become complacent. And to me, complacency is the killer of the majority of people's dreams in the long term. So there's 4 zones of life. Number 1 is comfort. Number 2 is fear. Number 3 is learning. And number 4 is growth. We must reside on a daily basis between learning and growth. Because if we become comfortable and we become fearful, those are the 2 biggest killers of dreams in everybody's life. Once we understand the philosophies of our individual zones of life, and we understand how we can impact ourselves in order to impact others, then we understand why migrating or residing between the learning and growth is what's going to get us to where we want to go. Everybody uses the terms uncomfortable to get comfortable. Well, we understand that there's no comfort, there's no growth in the comfort zone. So we have to make sure that we challenge ourselves on a daily basis and get out of our little complacent zone so that we can continue to grow as a people and continue to grow our people as human beings. Because as we understand life, life will never be easy. I don't want anything easy. I want to be able to put my time and effort, my blood, sweat, and tears into everything that I do in order to reap the benefits later on in life and understand the processes, the challenges and the obstacles that I've had to go through in life to better myself and to better everybody else that I come in contact with. So before I close, I want to make sure that whoever's listening, please write down these 3 or 4 little things that I want to make sure that you guys have in your little journal, your book of life, your thoughts on a daily basis. Number 1 is believe. Number 2 is value. Number 3 is create. And number 4 is recreate. One thing, yourself, every single day. Because if you believe in yourself, if you value yourself, if you create yourself or recreate yourself every single day, you can rest assured your life is going to go for the better, and you're going to be able to achieve your dreams. You're going to be able to achieve your goals. You're going to have that little resilient push that's going to take you to the next level in your life. And you're definitely going to lead a life of hope and a life of kindness. So once again, believe, value, create, and recreate yourself. Thank you guys very much for listening. It's been an honor and a pleasure, Andrea, and this is beautiful. This is what we have to do every month.
Oh my gosh. Wow, Joseph. Wow. Oh, so many great tidbits and insights. And yeah, when I mentioned everyone's here for a reason, and words can, aim to impact at least one person in this room, I'm pretty confident you impacted more than one. So you surpassed that goal, Joseph.
Thank you.
It made me realize that my mental house is quite a mess, and it's very messy. And it looks like I need to tidy that up. But
There you go.
you've made a lot of great remarks, and you're right. If you reside in comfortable and fearful, you will
Right.
never achieve your dreams. And what I found in my experience is, if you also want to move forward with your dreams, you need to let at least one other person know about your dreams, because that one person will keep you going when you go back to being comfortable and fearful. I just want to say really quickly, that person for me here was Tim Sohn. Tim Sohn has been my accountability partner for the past 7 months when I had
Tim's a
this
great
crazy
guy.
idea. Yes. And we meet almost every Friday. We've met
Awesome.
almost every Friday, and he made sure I kept going with my event, and that he kept going with his event, because he's having his first event too on November the 5th. So Tim put the details on the chat. But anyway, I want to open it up. Thank you, Joseph. I want to open it up to anyone else that has any comments for Joseph, or that
Yes.
could relate to anything that Joseph said.
Tell him I say thank you,
Ipek?
Ipek. You know what, Andrea? And I can sit here and we can talk for a lot about different ways that we can empower our people. But the number one thing that we have to understand is it's very simple, but it gets complicated because people don't want to take the time to be nice to people or being kind. We're in a world that is so, that I'd say, like our mental house, it's so disorganized, and nobody wants to actually jump in and be that kind person for whatever reason they think. And what I tell everybody, look, kindness is power. You being kind, you represent a power, unlimited power source. And I fail to understand why people have to be so judgmental, so racially motivated, so different. I mean, so many different things that cross people's mind. And I say to myself, dude, why? Life is beautiful. We're blessed beyond measure just to be who we are. Why don't we share our goodness with everybody?
Right.
Man, I mean, honestly, in my life, I'm blessed beyond measure. I have anything and everything that can probably, a country could live with what I have. And you know what? I'm going to try to share whatever I have till the day the man upstairs take me. I'm going to change the world. And I know that's a big statement, but you can rest assured you're going to hear from me a lot, Andrea. This is
Good.
only the start.
Good.
Thank you for your time.
Good.
Thank you for the platform, and you are amazing.
Thank you so much. I think Ipek had a question, and then we go to David.
Rather than a question, I loved all you said, Joseph. It
you.
resonates with me, every word you uttered. Thank you for that. And I wanted to share something that I experienced. The end of 2019 to going into 2020, I made a New Year's resolution. And just like you, kindness and love and compassion and being connected with yourself and who you are is so important. And I have found out that meditation helped me a lot to get there. So my New Year's resolution for that year was, okay, in this new year in 2020, I will introduce at least 10,000 people to the magic of meditation. And I didn't know how. I didn't know anything, how it was going to happen. But the year started. I myself meditate. I meditate every day. And all of a sudden, in the month of May, nothing happened March. Nothing happened until March. In March, a friend of mine mentioned this platform, Insight Timer, to me and said, you should become a teacher with them. They are looking for teachers. And I looked into it and I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is where I'm gonna get together with people and I will introduce them to the meditations that I create. And I did. And in less than a year, like 6, 7, 8 months time, my meditation were not only played more than 50,000 times, let alone 10,000. And people were like coming left and right to learn more, to like, so why I'm telling this story is because when we put the intention out and trust that the universe will bring us what we need to realize that, it comes. So what I always tell people, be the light, and they will come.
You know, Ipek, you know, what's the most important aspect of what you put in place to get to where you are? What did you do? You started.
I took action. As soon as the universe brought me the opportunity in front of me, I saw it.
You started, you took action, and what else? You executed based on your dreams, your vision, your goals, and you went all in because you have passion, you have compassion, and you know that nobody can stop you. You believed in yourself. And
Absolutely.
That's the most powerful aspect that we have as people, is believing in ourselves. Because when I first started my speaking years ago, everybody said, who's going to listen to Joseph Gonzalez? Nobody's going to listen to you.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing. I said, no, it doesn't matter. I don't need to know what I'm doing, but you know what I am going to do? I'm going to start tomorrow. And I don't know how many years now it's doing what I want it to do. Why? Because I became the best version of myself, and I show up as real, genuine, and authentic Joseph. And that is the power that we all have. So embrace your uniqueness, embrace your power, and live your best life. Nobody can take that from you.
Absolutely. And that's why I believe that both hell and heaven is in this world
There
here.
you go.
The ones who are like you, Joseph, or me, we are living in
That's right.
heaven.
Exactly.
And people who are going through all those negative words, negative feelings, negative thoughts, unfortunately, they are creating their hell and they live in it.
You know, and you brought up, that's a powerful statement. They're creating their hell and they're living it, because you know what? It's the reality of life that if you stay in that uncertain zone, and I talk a lot about that, if you stay in that uncertain zone every day, what are the chances that if you're surrounded by uncertainty and you're surrounded by negativity every single day, what are the chances that you're going to have an ability to work yourself out? It's tough. That's why we need more people like us to go out to the world and show them the greatness and the power that we have to be ourselves in our life. So that's something that, once again, I'm going to change the world. I know that's a big statement. I'm going to change the world, and I'm on the way, and I'm coming. And people are going to see me all over, and they're going to say, hey, you remember Joseph Gonzalez? He's changing the world. Thank you, Peg. It's a pleasure to meet you. Connect with me on LinkedIn.
I will. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank
I
you.
love it. I love it. Love it. David.
Happy Saturday. Let's go. Let's go. Rally day. Great, powerful start to the rally. I'm looking forward to everybody speaking. What really resonated for me in your words was just the power of kindness and the power of belief. You know, the power of kindness is limitless, and that's what I'm really hearing. You know, people will want to, the uncertainty and say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do it. You know, we as humans, I suck at a lot of stuff, but I'm amazing at a lot of things. And that's what I want to focus on. And that's what we need to focus on. People are so torn up by saying, oh, you can't do this, this isn't going to happen. It's your own blueprint, your own story. And that's what's important. Go and live for you. You know, that I really find much power in your words, and I'm happy. I know whoever upstairs put me here for a reason to hear those words, and that really resonated with me. I just want to say thank you. Powerful. You're gonna, you don't need to say you're gonna change the world. You're gonna change the world because you're gonna do it on your terms. That's what counts.
David, you know what? I'm going to change the world, but I'm going to bring you along with me.
Let's go.
Because we're going to change the world. Because when I first started speaking, everybody said, you ain't going to do nothing. You're not going to speak. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know how to speak. Oh, you know what? You know where I am today, right? I'm speaking. And you know what? And I'm changing the world, because as we sit right here, we have the ability to impact 800 million people every single day of our lives. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 800 million. But if you start, you have to start by one at a time. And you know what? That's the biggest impact that I want to have, one at a time. I can't tell you 800 million at a time because I might not reach them. But if over my lifetime, I've impacted thousands, that's 1,000 people that I've touched their heart. I've let them understand their self-worth, and they're living their best life. And I'm relentless in my pursuit, because I know struggle. I've struggled. My parents didn't have a penny. I didn't have food on the table, and we didn't have anything to live with. And you know what? That's my biggest passion in life, is to make sure that we provide for everybody, whether it be physically, mentally, body, mind, body, and soul. I'm relentless in my pursuit, and there's nothing that's going to stop us. And the power that we have to be our best version is unlimited, David. Don't let anybody tell you any different, because if they do, send them my way. Tell them to come see Joseph Gonzalez. I'm going to get them straight. Thank you, David.
Appreciate you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. So I think you've, I can honestly say, even without asking people, that you've developed a lot of fans in this virtual room, Joseph. So thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Powerful words. So true. Appreciate you, Joseph.
I appreciate you.
We are going to move on to our next speaker. We have Will Norbury, calling from the UK. So what I love about the speakers, and some people say when I ask them if they would like to speak, they're like, "Well, I'm not considered a speaker," but I'm like, I think everyone has a story. Therefore, everyone can be a speaker. A speaker, don't let the word and the term intimidate you. A speaker is just having an opportunity, a platform to share your voice. So what I love about this is that throughout all these 2 years, I've had people from all backgrounds, whether they're speakers or not speakers or wanting to be speakers. Everyone in the end has told such amazing stories, and that's what we're here for different people to come on. And I have William, which I just met. I just met Will. He also came on to my 15 minutes of kindness recently on LinkedIn. And when I was looking you up, Will, I mean, he was just so extremely kind when he came on, and also with his messages following up. And I'm like, there's something about Will that I must have him on these rallies. So when I looked you up, Will, I know you're an account handler for Aston Park, and you're a technician, but you're also a wellness warrior and mental health first aider, which I knew there was something also there that tied you. And so I am so excited to learn more about you. Again, I just had a feeling that you had to be here today, and I'm so happy that you are.
Okay, yeah, from the UK, as Andrea said. And again, Andrea, thank you for this opportunity here. It's something that it's way outside my comfort zone. So if you can bear with me, it's the first time I've ever done anything like this. So we'll give it a go, see what you think. So yeah, so greetings from the UK. It's 4:40 my time. I know you're a bit behind, so it's sort of getting on towards late afternoon. So greetings, welcome. Joseph, I've got to follow you. I will do my best. That was fantastic. Thank you for that. How I came to be here was what the story I want to tell is, as Andrea said, I'm a wellness warrior or a insurance broker or finance company, whatever we call it across the globe. And I've been working for this company a few years now. And my original company was acquired or bought out about two and a half years ago. And it really worried me at the time. It was very anxious about it all. I thought, no, I need to get out and try something else. But I stuck with it. And there's been some massive positives because we've got about, I don't know, lots of branches. We're buying up the whole universe at the moment, but all our branches across the United Kingdom have to have these wellness warriors, which are people that are encouraged to promote wellness and mental health and all those sorts of things. And at the time, it was supposed to be sort of put out to our staff here. Would someone like to take this role? And I didn't really know a great deal about it. So I just said, yeah, go on, I'll have a go. So I went to London, I think not too just prior to the pandemic. So we were still doing old school style. We're still meeting in person and doing all handshakes and all that sort of thing. And I found it very empowering because I didn't know what the role meant. And I learned over a day in London what it meant to do. And of course, then the pandemic hit. I think about 6 weeks later, so that changed our whole world. So to give you a bit of background from me, as well as in finance and a wellness warrior, we're part of the Christian Church in the United Kingdom. I've been a Christian since, well, a long time, let's put it that way. So that's an important part of my life, and I get quite involved in that on a more sort of, I chair meetings and I'm a treasurer and all that sort of thing. But so I do like getting involved in trying to help people. I also volunteer for a charity called Bernardo's. It might not mean anything worldwide, but it's UK's biggest charity that's devoted to children. So I volunteer around my sort of day job, hopes at the weekends. Again, I don't know if this is a concept that's out there with you people, you guys. It's a charity shop, so we sell second-hand goods and our own goods and so on. So it's to help the charity, to help the children and so on. So I find that really, at one level, it's enjoyable. I meet people, but I know at the end of the day, we're helping children in need in the UK. But just as a wellness for it in work, in the office, we're put into groups to lead events. Now, I got put into a group just about 3 months ago, and we were encouraged to do an event to focus on either mental health issues or wellness. Now, I came up with the idea to put an event on to support Worldwide Suicide Prevention Day. As it was my idea, I ended up leading the whole thing, which again is way outside my comfort zone. But the build up and getting it all prepped out, and we put out articles on our company intranet, and connecting with a charity that had first-hand experience of suicide was really helpful. So we got this gentleman to speak to us. It was actually his son that committed suicide. So he set up this charity and trying to encourage, particularly younger people that are going to college, university, schools, good mental health, communicating, talking about feelings and so on. So I found that event and leading it and getting the event over the line really empowering and mentally quite tiring as well. But I was just recently just checking out LinkedIn and never really used it. I see it as a sort of social media platform for engaging on a customer and client level. But I've been noticing there's a lot of really good resources out there for mental health and wellness and all that sort of thing. So I thought there's some really good useful stuff out there. So I'm really engaging with it now. And I think it's about 2 weeks ago or less, I just excuse me, I just noticed Andrea's event, and I thought it struck me, what a great title, 15 minutes of kindness. I thought, I'll have a go at that. Why not? What could go wrong? What could go wrong? And I went on to the call, and I felt empowered again. I'll keep using that word to speak there, which again is not normally my thing, but I did it, and I again came off the con thinking, wow, that was really good. That Andrea asked me to do this today, which again I found really powerful, getting a different message across the globe and from the United Kingdom, because I think it's, and I think Joseph touched on it. I think Andrea, you mentioned it right at the beginning of the Zoom. Whilst we're here to make money and all that, and in business and what have you, and it gives us a certain lifestyle, it gives us the clothes and the food that we need and all that. But equally, I'm strongly feeling that we're put here to help people as well. So that's what I'm about. I'm really getting really passionate about helping people, either through what I do in church, and our church has a, I'm quite proud, so we've got a food club. I don't know if that means anything out there, food club where if you qualify, you can get a certain amount of food for a lower cost. So I'm quite proud that we've got something like that. I do my volunteering, which is again helping children, and I'm also really passionate about my wellness warrior role. So whilst the negative is sometimes I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall sometimes because people don't want to hear the message. You've just got to keep trying, because sometimes they might need the support services we've got, and I've felt that I've been quite proactive of late, recognising that a colleague might be struggling, so we need to get help, or another colleague might be struggling in a different way, and it might lead on to other problems. So we be proactive about what help might they need. Some people, if you say, what help do you need, they might turn around and say, I'm doing fine, I'm doing fine. So you can't press yourselves on people. You've got to be there for them. Sometimes we've got this is our office here in Manchester. We've been encouraged that we've got a nice quiet room. So if someone's struggling a bit, go in the quiet room. If we need to have a private conversation, we can use it there. So, you know, want to check in with someone, check that they're doing okay, rather than it being in the main office. So we use that. So again, my catchphrase at the moment is empowered. And again, I'm passionate about trying to help people. And the underlying other part of this is that over the, I'm sorry, if it's okay to share, excuse me, maybe probably 12, 14 months, the backdrop for me has had to deal with depression, which was diagnosed October, November last year. I live alone, so some parts of the pandemic were really difficult for me because working from home, couldn't see friends. You know what it was like. You know what it was like. So I've come out of my depression feeling really empowered to socialise more with people, help people. Having a little mental health blip at the moment, but I know the signs now, so I can hopefully sort it. It's almost one of those situations where I can tell you all out there what's the right thing to do, but I don't do it myself. So I'm struggling a bit at the moment, but I'm getting help. And I know I've got like a team of mental health first aiders around that I need, if I need to talk to them, and that is really useful. So, but I know that you don't ever get over depression. You might think it's gone, but you still have blips. So it's sort of a learning curve and knowing when the signs are there and knowing what to do about it. But yeah, my phrase is we help people. That's what we're put on the earth to do. I know making money is important, and our management here say yes, what I do as a wellness worker is important, but equally the business needs to make money. So for me, it's trying to get some sort of mashing the two together so that I'm happy with the situation. So I want to help people, basically. That's my message to you all.
Will, oh my goodness, Will, first of all, I am so honored.
Go on.
I'm so honored for you to share your story, and for the first time, and you chose this platform. I'm so honored to have you here, and your words impacted me for sure. The Wellness Warrior program, I think that's brilliant. And I want to pitch that to my own company. So I think I love that. I love what you do, and just your kindness truly shines in everything about you. So thank you so much. I want to open it up to anyone that would like to share a comment for Will or ask a question. Joseph? You're on mute, Joseph.
Hey, William, great story, great kindness. To me, you've made an impact on so many people right now that it's incredible. But one of the things that I'd like to mention is, remember, we all have to walk within ourselves and bring our true selves on a daily basis in order to impact others. I've always had the mindset that before I can make a difference, let's say in Will or Andrea's life, I have to make the biggest difference within my life. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect, because as we know, we're never going to be perfect. But as long as I can be the best version of myself, even going through my struggles, then I will have an ability to impact the rest of the world like I'm going to do. So my message to you is simple. You've gotten this far. You've gotten your little hurdles or obstacles that you get around. Now the main point is work on yourself so you can be the best version of yourself on a daily basis, and then go and change the world with me. I'm bringing you along, buddy. Thank you for your story. I love it.
I'm with you, man. Yeah, don't worry. Wow.
Wonderful. So true. So true, Joseph. We all are a work in progress for sure. Let's see, Jen?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I just wanted to first start off by saying, William, thank you for having the courage to share your story. It is extremely difficult. And I think each step we take, I always say, the more we can be uncomfortable, the more we can start feeling comfortable. And I think just taking one step in that direction is amazing. And I wanted to highlight one thing you said that I actually wrote down that I think is so important to highlight. You said you don't ever get over depression. And I think that's a big misconception. I know I've even had in my own mental health journey, is thinking, I have anxiety. I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to do all the things and just get rid of it. And what I learned is it's a part of you, and real healing comes from what I like to look at as like integration. It's like not putting that part of me aside or not trying to avoid it, but by really accepting and acknowledging and trying to integrate it into my whole self, like Joseph was talking about. I think that's such an important message. So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that.
You're
And it's a
welcome.
big stigma that we just need to get rid of. It's not about getting rid of something.
Yeah, I think one of the comments that I heard just recently is kill the stigma. Hashtag everybody, kill the stigma. So it's really important that, yeah.
So true. Oh my gosh. Wonderful words, Jen and Joseph. I have anxiety myself, and I've been told many times, you know, especially growing up, that I need to go see something to see a doctor to get fixed. I'm like, am I really broken? It's just part of me, right? So yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Let's see, we have David.
Yeah, and that again, great energy in the room. William, man, first time you went and did this.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, man. Just kudos. Went out there, went big, and decided to do it. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So proud of you, mate. So proud of you.
Thank you.
You know, one thing I would say, you just said something around the stigma. You know, I'm a big mental health advocate myself. You know, and you're right. It's about normalizing that conversation. You know, making it safe, and you know, just kind of going forward with it. And there's great power in what you said. You know, you've been really. I'm proud of you. I've only just met you, and I am going to connect with you.
Thank you.
You know, but there's bravery in what you've done today. You know, you've come here and spoke your and opened your heart to a load of people in a room that you don't know, and you just said truly what's on your heart, and you did it with bravery, you did it with grace, and I just have to tell you that, mate.
Thank you, David. That's wonderful.
You know, yeah, I'm so proud of you for that, man. I'm gonna shut up.
Can I just add, David said something that when there was a point earlier in the year when I thought I'd get over my depression. I thought I was really doing well. I did have a bit of a meltdown in the office, and sometimes that happened. And I wasn't particularly proud of myself when that happened. But I spoke to a friend who deals in mental health matters, and he said a weird thing to me. I didn't quite get it at the time, but he said to me, I was really proud of you that you had a meltdown. And I didn't get it really, but it made some sense after I thought it through. So yeah, sometimes you need those moments really, sometimes, I think.
That's right. That's right, Will. And it takes one person to show their humanness so others don't feel so alone, because they may be going through the same thing, but no one's seen it, right?
Yeah.
So I echo what Dave said. I'm so proud of you, so honored to have you here. And I think this is going to be the first of many, many, many other opportunities for you, Will. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much.
I just want to
Oh, yes, Ipek. You have another
very
question?
small thing. David, we need more of you in this world, especially compared to the big businesses making billions and billions of dollars profits and looking to make even more. Like I don't like, if your mentality they would have your mentality, they would share so much of that profit with others. I wish that would be the case, and I hope I still believe that we will get there slowly but surely. The number of people thinking this way, seeing kindness and helping others the way to live, make their lifestyle, the sooner we will get there. Maybe in our lifetime, maybe not. That's I don't know, but I believe in humanity, and I believe that we will get there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ipek. Thank you. I wanted to call out, there's so many great comments also, Will, but I wanted to call out Lisa. You've been putting some really beautiful words as well. I don't know if you want to mention what you put, because I think everyone should hear it.
Oh, I just made a comment actually, and I want to salute everyone who's spoken, because it takes courage to do speaking anyway, as it is, public speaking. But, you know, anyone who wants to be open about depression has my vote, because if I may say, men find it particularly challenging to speak about this kind of issue. And so bravo, William, honestly. And really, men should follow his lead as well as women. And I just find this forum so healthy that we can discuss these issues, and also we draw happiness and strength from it.
Indeed.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you,
So,
Andrea.
so beautiful that you're here. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
words. So, Joseph, did you have something else?
Yes, just something real quick. William, remember, what makes us human beings is that we're the best perfectly imperfect human beings. So don't dwell on the fact that you are not, or we are, I'm the most imperfect human being in the world. So don't dwell on the fact that we have to go through struggles to get to where we are. Number two, EPEC. She brought up something that I'm relentless about as well, is big companies putting profits over people at the expense of their mental health. And to me, that's one of the things. Everybody uses the terms ROI, return on investment. But I use ROPI. The best ROI is your ROPI, return on your people investment. That's where it's at. So big companies need to listen up, because the leaders are becoming irrelevant over time.
Like that one.
And as
Yeah.
Joseph
Like that
says,
joke.
boom. Yes.
Wow.
Very awesome. Oh my gosh. So powerful. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Will.
Thank
And
you.
bravo.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
I want to introduce our next speaker, Alicia Richardson, who I am so excited to see. It's been a while. Alicia and I actually met through the Houston Writers Guild. I was lucky enough to work with her in a leadership role. She's still at the Houston Writers Guild in a leadership role. She's the CFO, but it's a wonderful organization. If you're live around in the area, you don't even have to be in the area from what I remembered, but if you're interested in writing and resources, please check out the Houston Writers Guild. Alicia is just one of the most creative, brilliant people I know. I love how she thinks. I don't mean to embarrass you, Alicia, but this is true. She has done so much as far as putting herself out there. She's a very prolific writer in all sorts of genres. And also she does audiobooks. She's so just, God, she's like a library. Any question that you have, Alicia knows about the content world and creativity, and she always makes me smile. So I am so excited for you to be here. I remember, Alicia, you've been a supporter for these rallies forever. And I remember once you even called in from a hospital bed. And that was just like, oh my gosh, talk about committed, and talk about just being so full of heart to want to support others. So Alicia, I love that you're here. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you for that glowing introduction there, Andrea. I am delighted to come and be able to support you today in your round. Excuse my squeaky chair here, but I'm really happy to support you. And so I just wanted to I have like some takeaways. So I'm going to just go through a timeline of events here. Starting in 2017, and you can see in the picture behind me, this is like, okay, the famous Prism Lake from Yellowstone. Usually you see it from like an aerial photograph, and you can see the blue and the green and the yellow, and this is the orange. Well, this is standing on one of the observation platforms, and if you kind of squint, you can see the the blue in the back behind my head here. And so 2017 was like the totality of the eclipse was going to fall over the Western United States, and my husband really wanted to see it. And so we flew off to Salt Lake City mid-August and did a road trip. We saw Yellowstone and Teton and Glacier, the Lolo fires in Montana, and it was a really great family trip. And then we got we got to the eclipse. We stopped in Idaho and saw the eclipse, and there is a really strange I mean, eclipses are just surreal. I don't know if you've ever been in the totality of one, but it's like half light. It's a sort of a twilight. It's not really light, but it's not really dark. And the leaves, like there were shadows from the trees, and you can see all these little kind of crescent suns, because it worked the same way as the pinhole camera. And because like the light would filter through the trees. And so we had our little funky glasses on, and I tried taking pictures of the eclipse with my cell phone, and that just didn't work. So school was starting. The kids and I went home on a Wednesday, and my husband's brother came from all the way from England to do the eclipse with us. And so he and my husband were going to drive around and see a few more things. So Thursday, after we got home, there was a big storm in the Gulf of Mexico. And I called my husband and I said, there's kind of a big storm. You might want to come home early. And he's like, oh, no, I think it'll be fine. So needless to say, Harvey hit on Friday and dropped 3 cubic miles of water on the city of Houston. And we flooded. And my husband, because all the airports were closed, he was stranded at the Salt Lake City airport with some friends that we knew, that they didn't go on the trip with us, but they also had gone to see the eclipse. And so we're also friends with the sister-in-law of this couple. And so she came, I had to wade through like chest deep water. We flagged down some kayakers here. And I thought I had a picture of them. Here's my kayakers. So yeah, I put my daughter and one of the cats on a kayak, and then some other people came by. And so we had my son and the other 2 cats and an ice chest with, our important documents and our go bags, because I had them pack up the, like a Ziploc bag with a change of clothes and a toothbrush and stuff like that. So I waded through chest deep water, and my kid was on the kayak. And so I called my husband, and he was talking to Ann and George. And so they called Marika, and she came and picked Alex and I up. We're sitting there on the curb all soggy with the dog, and I couldn't find my other kid. So I'm frantically like trying to call her, and we finally get her tracked down, but we couldn't just drive there because everything was flooded. So we had to go like a circuitous route, and finally got her picked up. She took us to Ann and George's house, and we ended up staying with them for 6 months. And I think that we got closer to them, but it was very stressful because there was the 4 of us and the 2 of them, and it was kind of a small house. And so we had another friend that took our dog because they had a very temperamental cat, and the cat and the dog were not going to get along. So I had a friend that took our dog. And then I have another fabulous friend from the Writers Guild, Fern Brady, who knows a lot of construction. She has a good friend that does construction. And so we were, because of Fern, having this contact with Fern, we were able to get a contractor when so many people could not get contractors. And ironically enough, when my husband was stranded in Utah, Mormons came, because there's local Mormons, and they're not just sequestered in Utah, but there are local Mormons, and they came and they helped do tear outs, because you have to, when you flood, you have to pull off that bottom 4 feet of sheetrock, because sheetrock comes in 4-foot widths. And so you've got to pull off that whole bottom sheet of sheetrock. Otherwise the water will just wick up and get moldy and stuff like that. So the Mormons came and helped him do that. So that was kind of our fall. And then September, when we were still staying at the Friends, I woke up one morning and I couldn't pee. And it was an issue. It was very bad. So my husband ran me to the ER. Fortunately, it was a Saturday morning and I didn't have to take anybody to school. And so they, fixed the problem and sent me to a urologist. And the problem with that urologist was his specialty was men's issues. So he told me flat out, he said, I have no idea what's wrong with you, but we can do surgery. I was like, yeah, I'm not really comfortable with you poking around blind in my innards. So let's do something different. But the situation seemed to kind of start to resolve itself over time, and I was able to manage it. And in the meantime, I was struggling with FEMA and the SBA and organizing the contractor, and they kept finding issues. Like on the north side of the house, there was no weatherproofing between the brick veneer and the studs. So water was just coming in straight into the house and soaking the studs. So they had to replace a bunch of the studs that were rotted. The electrical breaker box was like half. It was rated for about half what we were pulling. And he said, you know, it's amazing your house is not caught on fire. There were a bunch of like uncapped wires. I mean, they just like cut wires and not cap them or anything in the walls. And I mean, it was just one thing after another that we had to fix. And it was like this just never ending trial. And then December, we got snow, which is fun to drive in Houston. But it was, you know, I have all kinds of pictures of the snow. And then I went for my annual physical, and the doctor calls me and says, your blood protein is really low and your urine protein is really high and your lipids are off the chart. You need to see a nephrologist. So I was like, okay. So I went to see the nephrologist, and they did an ultrasound. And also I had gone to my GP when I had the issue where I couldn't go to the bathroom, and I said, there's something going on. And she kind of poked me a little bit and said, you're just fat. That's all that's wrong with you. So I went and got this ultrasound, and I told the radiologist, I said, there's something wrong in my pelvis. Can you kind of tilt the thing a little, since you're right there, can you just look? So they found a softball sized tumor. And so I went to the nephrologist, and they said, well, your kidneys are like the right size and everything. They look okay on the ultrasound, but we're going to need to do a biopsy. And then I went to a specialist gynecologist, and they did an MRI, and they said, well, you've got this thing. It looks like a fibroid. So we don't think that it's, you know, life-threatening. And I said, good, because I'm on all these crazy drugs. I can't have surgery. We'll deal with it later. So so the reason the lipids were off the chart, I mean, this is just kind of like an aside, but what was happening was my kidneys were filtering the protein out of my blood, and that changes your blood chemistry, and it causes the liquid part of your blood to seep out into your tissues. And so I had like fluid in my lungs, and sometimes my feet would be so swollen I couldn't put shoes on. And I was on the blood thinners because my nephrologist said, I'm worried your blood is going to get so thick, it's just going to clot. And that's not compatible with life. So I was on like massive doses of blood thinners and fun stuff like that. So the good part of March is we moved back into our house, and it looked better than it had before the flood. So because we had to tear out a lot of flooring and stuff, we were able to you know, put in some different flooring that I'd wanted to replace. So 2018 and 2019 were basically a blur of, you know, visits to different ologists and industrial strength drugs. And I had to wear a medical alert bracelet in case I got in a car accident so I wouldn't bleed to death and all that kind of stuff. So November of 2019, I was off all the drugs. I'd stepped down off the prednisone because, I mean, you can't just not take it. You have to step down. I was off the tacrolimus. I was off the prednisone. I was like, all right, 2020 is going to be the year everything gets back on track. It's like, no, 2020 is going to be the year where you almost bleed to death 3 times, have to have major surgery. And oh, there's a pandemic going on as well. So, at Halloween, this is the time that I went on to Andrea's worthy rally when I was in the hospital. Halloween, I had a really bad bleed. And so I went to the ER, and because my nephrologist fussed at me because the time before that I didn't go, and he was looking at my blood work, and he's like, you should have gone to the ER. So went to the ER. They kept me overnight. They did an MRI and to try and figure out what was making me have these terrible bleeds. And they said, well, there's a mass in your pelvis that's taking up your entire pelvis. And so one of the ER doctors said, if there's unexplained bleeding in a menopausal, perimenopausal woman, it's, unless you can prove otherwise, it's cancer. I'm going to refer you to an oncologist. So he gave me a card for the oncologist. And then a couple of hours later, a different ER doctor, I guess he went off shift, and she came in and she said, well, I don't know that it's cancer, but I'm going to refer you to this specialist that works with gynecological extreme issues. So I went home Saturday morning after doing the Worthy rally, or I guess it was Saturday afternoon. And then Monday I had an appointment with this doctor. And so she looked at the MRI and she said, I think what it is a fibroid. I don't think it's cancer, but it's got, whatever it is, it's got to come out. So she signed me up for the soonest surgical slot she could get. And it was really hard because, the hospitals were slammed with COVID and they didn't have enough staff and there weren't enough rooms. And so it was hard to get a surgical slot. So I had my surgery. But before that, 5 days before that, I had another bleed and I bled so much that I passed out. And my husband had to send me to the ER in an ambulance, but they were slammed. I mean, I was in the hallway and they gave me a couple of units of fluid and basically said, well, they know what your issue is. You're signed up for surgery. Here's some fluid, go home and try not to die. So I had my surgery. They gave me some extra units of blood. The doctor said, okay, this tumor is like the size of a large baby. And the pathology came back. It was not cancer. I don't want to say it was benign because it put me in the ER 4 times, but it was not cancerous. So it's like, all right. So we got through all of that. And so 2021 is now the year of getting back. But, I spent most of 2021 recovering and starting to get back on track. I had a cozy mystery series that I was working on. I got between 2021 and 22, I got all 12 of them written. The first 9 are published. And so when I did my December 2021 health thing, one of the reasons that the doctor took me off of Tacrolimus is he said that it was at the point where it's doing more harm than good. And one of the things that it did was, like 30% of people who are on it get diabetes. So my blood sugar, I clinically had diabetes. So when I did my annual visit, my A1C was ridiculous. It was like 9.1 or something. And I have an annual cardiologist exam. And so the cardiologist was like, oh, you need to take this. And she's just like, you need to take all these drugs. So I was like, yeah, I kind of have an issue taking these drugs. I had to go to the ER for some of the drugs that the nephrologist had given me. So I started doing intermittent fasting. And after 6 months, when I had my summer, because I'm at the point where I just see my nephrologist every 6 months. So when I had my June visit with him, I had lost almost 30 pounds and my A1C had dropped 2 points. So it was back like 7. So it was an acceptable level. And so I feel like I really started getting everything back on track. So the takeaways that I have for this extended ordeal is, if there is something you want to do it now. Don't wait, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You might have Harvey drop 3 miles of water on top of your head the next day. So do not wait. Do what you want. If you want it, do it now. And there's a bright side to everything. You may have to look really hard to find it. But the bright side of getting our house flooded was we found all these issues we didn't know we had, and we were able to fix them before, the house caught on fire or fell over. So, and, like I said, there were some things that we wanted to remodel that now we had a chance to, because, the whole house was in pieces. It was down to the studs. So even though that was traumatic, we did find some good things. Friends are worth their weight in gold. So if you want the kind of friends that won't leave you sitting on the curb with your dog and soggy belongings, be that kind of friend. You know, be the kind of friend that will go rescue somebody at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I mean, if you want to have those kind of friends. And when it comes to medical issues, trust but verify. I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor, because doctors have spent a lot of years in medical training, but I think they kind of go by the 80-20 rule. So it's like 20% of things cause 80% of the issues. So, you know, if they're in a hurry, like, you know, when they're slammed with COVID or something, they may not, you know, if you may have something different, you're not in that 80%, you're in the other 20%. And also a lot of times doctors have biases that they're not aware of. Like when my doctor just said, oh, well, you're just fat, that's the problem with you. Well, no, it wasn't that I was just fat. I had a softball sized tumor, which later grew into a baby sized tumor. But because she didn't do any imaging or anything, I mean, we might have been able to, you know, take care of it before I had the kidney issue, and it wouldn't have almost killed me. So, you know, doctors are human and they're not infallible. So I'm not saying don't listen to them. You should listen to them, but also trust but verify. So that is my story.
Wow, Alicia. Wow. I didn't know all of those details. And that goes to show, I mean, Alicia, those around 2020 was the time we were working together in 2019. And Alicia just kept going, and always just was there to help and help and help and showed up. And I had no idea of the extent to what you were going through. So I admire you so much, your courage and your perseverance to go through it, but also to challenge. And you know yourself better than anyone else. You know your body any better than anyone else. So for you to keep going and do what's right for you, I applaud you for that. So thank you, Alicia. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Any questions, comments for Alicia? Ipek?
Alicia, I was like, wow, what a story. And I see that you use the name Holiday for your books. Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the pen name for my cozies.
Yeah, can you tell a little bit about your books, because I believe they are mystery books, that kind of books.
Yeah, the Possumwood series, that's the mock-up for the final collection. Because what the series, so obviously each book has a story arc, but then each season, like winter, spring, summer, fall, that season has an arc, and then there's an arc over the entire series. So I boxed them up in little sets of 3. But the premise of the mystery series is the main character is a homicide detective, and she's retiring. She's at her retirement dinner, and her sister calls and says her mother's fallen and broken her hip. And her mom has all these animals, so she has to go out and help take care of the animals while her mom's recovering. So she's in her little hometown. And so in the first story, this hometown kind of delists celebrity, returns to town and ends up dead, and her brother gets blamed for it. So she has to charge in and find the real killer to rescue him. So there's book 8 is actually set in the jury room in Harris County, but all the other mysteries are set in Possumwood, and they're cozy. So there's not, you know, obviously someone dies, but I mean, there's not a lot of gore, and there's not strong language, and you know, not graphic sex or anything like
the
that.
reason I wanted to know more, because myself and my husband Craig, who's also on this call, we love that kind of books, so we will definitely check them out. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Alicia, please put more details where people can find your books on the chat. And wow, you mentioned that you continued to write throughout all this. And how many did you write, did you say? 19?
There's 12. There's 12
12
in the series.
Okay, that's a lot. Wow. Ifek, I didn't realize Craig. Yeah, well, obviously it's the same last name. I didn't know Craig was your husband. Welcome, Craig. Okay. Thank you so much, Alicia. Thank you so much. Always appreciate you, and it's so good to see you.
It's great to
Next-
see you too.
Next, we have Jen. She goes by Jen Tsang. Jen and I connected actually via Twitter. This first time we really see each other face to face, but we connected via Twitter chats. There's lots of Twitter chats that are amazing out there in Twitter. If you don't know what those are, they're based on any topic that you can think of. We gravitate more towards those leadership type of chats, those professional development, those inspirational chats. And Jen has gone on to my chat several times. I lead a chat called Dare to Be every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I've done it for the past 8 years. And Jen has popped on, and eventually she also, Sonia, hi. Sonia is also a part of the Dare to Be family. Hey, Sonia. Jen also has done her own chat. Started her own chat with a previous speaker on these rallies, Syed, and they have leaders chat. And I'm so happy to have you here, Sonia, because Sonia's here too. Jen, because I know I've been meaning to connect with you for a while. I know a lot of your work is on leadership and your work to transform people into great leaders. You're really looking into people feeling understood, because oftentimes they feel misunderstood, like they don't have a voice. They don't see what their value is, and you make them aware of their value, specifically towards leaders, but I know it really gravitates to everyone, those themes. So I'm so glad you are here and the tremendous work that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And to follow up our previous speaker, wow, I mean, just such a powerful, compelling story. So thank you for sharing your story. And I also have to say, for women especially, I've come across this myself. We have to be diligent about women's health, because I too have faced very similar issues dealing with the healthcare profession. So thank you for sharing your story. Yeah, so I have an interesting background. I do work with leaders. I'm a professional coach. I also work for a major Fortune 500 company where I get to work with leaders in different capacities, but it's all around how do we make organizations and leaders work. I love that Joseph mentioned ROPI. I have a very similar philosophy with that. We hear a lot about return on investment. How do we, make our revenue? And I'm always the one pushing back saying we have to focus on the revenue of our people first to drive the business outcomes that they're looking for. So it's something that I'm deeply passionate about. And I've actually been in the corporate space pretty much my entire career. And where it started was I had an opportunity to go work at a major corporation, and I really didn't have a path. So when Joseph was also talking about who you are, I have a TED Talk coming out in November, which it's actually exactly that topic about. It's actually looking at Simon Sinek's model, because in corporate, we talk a lot about starting with the why. And I always say you have to start with the who, because I've seen, especially in leadership, especially in organizations, we tend to spin on the why a lot. Why are we doing this? Why did this happen? Why, we spin and never get anywhere. And what it always came back to me was the question I always ask is, who do we want to be? Who do we want to be in this moment? If we know who we are and who we want to be, the why becomes clear. And how that shaped for me was I've struggled with mental health for a good portion of my life. I've had anxiety and panic disorders, and I had a few significant events happen in my life in my early 20s that literally made me feel broken. And I had the mindset that you had, Andrea, where it was, I'm broken, I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to get fixed. And I quickly learned that that's not exactly how it works. But that's where I got introduced to this whole concept of who are you and who do you want to be? Because we get to define that. We get to own that. We get to shape that every single day. there's two bodies of work that have really, really shaped my life that I love to recommend to people. The first book that I ever read that changed my life was Pema Chodron's When Things Fall Apart. So when things fall apart, there's many different ways that if you read the book, there's a lot of very interesting insights into what that means, but it's about everyday instances in our lives when things fall apart. How do we show up? How do we interact with those things? Do we let it consume us, defeat us? For me, it was about anxiety. Do I feed that part of me that is anxious, that is always looking and lurking around the corner, seeing what's next? I have a very hyper vigilant part of myself that, due to trauma and other things, I didn't understand it. So it manifested itself in this very intense panic disorder. So through therapy, and I read this book, and it just really opened my eyes up to what it means to fall apart. And even in those moments of falling apart, we are still whole. We are always whole. We aren't broken. We aren't defective. Like, I thought for a long time I was defective because I had a really bad panic attack in my early 20s in corporate. I actually remember I was at work, and I just had this overwhelming sense of dread. And like, I don't know if anybody's ever had a panic attack, but it feels like you're imminent, like death is imminent, and it's not logical. People will try and talk to you and say, no, you're okay, you're safe. I go to the emergency room and I try and convince the doctors there's something wrong with me. Like, I feel it in every inch of my body. And they tried to convince me, you're fine, nothing's wrong. We've taken the EKGs, the blood work, the blah, blah, you're healthy, you're fine. Maybe it's mental. And, that really had a profound effect on me, because in that moment I thought, oh, there's something wrong with, there is something wrong with me, but it's my mind. Like, that to me felt like the biggest, because if it were like a physical thing, I felt like, oh, okay, I could take some medication or I could do something and it would just magically get fixed. I had a few run-ins like that in the emergency room, and I went to a neurologist, and he, was like, you have panic disorder, here's Paxil, take that and you'll be fine. And something inside of me just always kept coming back to, that doesn't feel right for me. Like, I wanted to understand. I wanted to know who I was. I wanted to know. It was a deep curiosity of what's happening to me. What's this experience that I'm having? So eventually I made my way into therapy, and I found a really great therapist. And it was actually, she was a somatic therapist, which I had no experience with, didn't know what it was, but it was all around body work. And for people who have trauma, it's a very therapeutic and very effective modality, because it helps you get back into your body. When I'm having an anxiety or panic attack, where my immediately go to is my mind, right? It's like, it's overloaded. It's like, how can I fix this? I'm in danger. I need to figure out how to make this stop. What that taught me was, how do I get back into my body to understand, where the root of something. It could be something as simple as, like, I had a pain in my side, maybe I ate a little bit too much or ate the wrong thing, but that would trigger a panic attack. And I would think, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Like, something's happening. And it would just swirl into this really big thing. So this whole journey I went through in somatic therapy was so beneficial, because again, it helped me get back into who I am, which includes my body, my mind, my spirit, the whole thing. And that's when I started to realize, like, the connection between the mind, the body. You hear all about that. There's been a lot of research. There's a lot of people who talk about it, but to really sit there and experience it was life-changing. So that was so going back to Pema Chodron's work, I've read almost all of her books, and I think it's great. The other life-changing book I read recently was by Michael Singer, called The Surrender Experiment. And I believe someone, I don't remember who brought it up, but it's all about his journey of surrendering to the flow of life. And someone, again, who's dealing with anxiety and panic, there is always this looming cloud of, like, what's next? And eventually it gets into panic disorder, which then you have fears of having a panic attack, right? It's just a snowball. But really surrendering to the flow of life has been so life-changing for me in the sense of reminding me again to come back to the present moment, to come back to my body, to come back to this moment. And there's a lot of correlations there for me with like Buddhism. I know we were talking earlier about one of the Four Noble Truths, which is suffering. And I feel like anxiety and panic have this really strong pull into that darkness of that suffering. It's just this vicious cycle. So once I went through the somatic therapy, I, again, at this point was like, I'm good. I fixed it. I felt great. Everything was wonderful. I felt better than I'd ever felt until I had probably, I would say, about the fourth biggest trauma I've had in my life. And that really put a test. That put me through a big, big test, because I had leaned on all of the work that I had done, all of the great experience I had in therapy. And I came back to this place of feeling like, oh my God, I'm broken again. Like how did I spend 5 years doing all this great work to now become broken again? So I found my way back into therapy, but there was a new model my current therapist uses. It's called Internal Family Systems, IFS. And it's all about looking at your internal system as like a system. So it's geared around like, how do we protect trauma? How do we manage trauma? And that was really critical for me, because I found that that was really kind of the source of where my anxiety was coming from. It was about, I wanted to protect these things that were really difficult and tender and scared me, frankly. So when we had the guest earlier today talking about how it was scary, and one of the things that I learned through this intensive work that I've done is that the more discomfort we can sit with and the more we can get comfortable with that discomfort, the more we're able to show up in a more holistic way with that discomfort. My whole work has been about integration. I mentioned that earlier. It's about not saying, Jen, this anxiety is terrible. You need to get rid of it. You need to fix it, but just understanding it's there, and that's okay. And my therapist likes to remind me, she's like, it doesn't have to go anywhere. And in fact, it can be a really powerful tool if I use it in an empowering way versus letting it kind of take, I always say my metaphor is, who's driving the car? Who's in the front seat? Is it me? Is it my highest self? Is it my whole self? Or is it my anxiety or my panic or trauma or any experience that we've had? Like, who's in that front seat? And a lot of the work that I do with leaders in coaching is, how do we get you out of that kind of cycle of who's driving in that front seat? Is it your fear? Is it your anxieties? Is it depression? Is it whatever part of you, whatever we're trying to protect? Who's in that front seat? And understanding, what was really powerful for me was like understanding, one, that it's okay. Like we build very sophisticated ways for us to deal with difficult things that happen to us. And that's okay. It's okay. The more that we know what our tendencies are and how those things show up, again, we can start to look at them in a different way. And I think it was Joseph who mentioned earlier, it's like, we can always turn it into a positive, and not in a toxic positivity way, but it's more of an appreciation and an understanding and having this deep gratitude for the ways that we have developed to keep ourselves safe may not work for us anymore. It worked for us at one point. So having that gratitude of, maybe our family units, maybe we're in a toxic household or an abusive household. Hey, these things that I do at one point kept me safe. And that is a blessing. May not work for me now that I'm not in that same situation anymore, but what are the tools? What are the insights that I can learn from that situation and apply them in a much more empowering way now? So that's a lot of the work that I do with myself, and also try to work with leaders. And just to clarify, also for me, leaders is anybody who wants to have a mindset of, again, taking over that front seat of that experience and not allowing or, giving permission to all these other parts of us to take over and control our lives. So it's always this, whenever I take personality tests, or at work, we have all kinds of like strengths tests and all that. And mine is always around harmony. It's about, how do I get all of these different parts, all these things inside of me and that have happened to me and with me, and how do I integrate them all so it is that whole being, and not trying to, again, push it away or try to dismiss it or fix it, but just allowing it to be there and really embracing all of it. So I think for me, the biggest thing is, like Joseph said, it's start with who you are always. And the moment you can define that, and the more you define that over time, so many other things become easier. They become like, when we talk about intuition, for me, it's about the more whole we can be, the people who can, make those decisions and who are in complete alignment. There isn't a need to question why. There isn't a need to like understand, why things are happening or why I made that choice or what should I do. You just do it and you just know. So I think it's really, really important to anybody who's on the call or listening is really get clear on your who, and just continue to have that curiosity and really get curious with your own life. And don't be afraid. I spent so many years trying to run from myself. I have a really powerful therapy experience I want to share real quick that was so profound that kind of solidified all this for me. I remember I was in a therapy session and we were talking about something really difficult. And I can remember as I was speaking, there was this other voice in my head telling me, you need to run away. You need to go. Tell her you have to go to the bathroom. Tell her you have an emergency. Tell her. That was my panic coming up saying, you need to go now. This is dire. Like, you can't stay here anymore. And I can remember another voice then popped up in my head and said, where are you going to go? Even if you leave this room right now, this is still here. You have nowhere else. You can't run from yourself anymore. You've tried running for so many years and there's nowhere left to go. So your only choice is to sit right here with, as uncomfortable as it is, as upsetting as it, whatever it is, like you just have to sit. And I was able to sit through it. And I realized that with panic, there's always this arc. It's like it gets very, very intense and then it kind of starts to taper off. And it's like, for me, it's if I can make it through that first initial, my therapist calls it a surge. If you can get through that first surge and just be really present with it, you'll notice that the less you resist it, the less it's persistent. It doesn't have a, lasting effect. If you can just allow it to come. I think it's maybe it's Tara Brach as well, where she talks about allowing kind of the waves to kind of come, and the less we resist it, it can just move right through you. And developing practices for that, I think, are just so important for anybody. When we're dealing with these really difficult situations, trusting yourself and knowing that you can handle it, and knowing that whatever's coming up, it's okay. And it's what's meant to be. And it's a great learning experience, and you can just let it flow. It's so powerful to just let it just go through you. And I've been playing around a lot with this in my own life when I have kind of anxiety come up, and I've noticed that the less we can resist those waves, the more easily it just kind of washes right through you. And it's this ebbing and flowing. It's this very interesting kind of natural kind of ebbing and flowing of life that if we can kind of get on that flow, again, it feels like it's just less intense. It doesn't last as long, and it provides some really great insights. So that's, I don't know what I have to share. And I hope that was helpful, and I hope I stayed on track. But yeah, just let life flow. And my other thing is we are whole. We're always whole.
Jen, you are amazing. Oh my goodness. And I wish I
Thanks.
would have connected with you sooner. Your wealth of knowledge, and I could relate to so many things that you've said. I think we've gone through similar journeys. About how you describe the panic disorder and anxiety, it's things that I have struggled with throughout my life as well. So I truly see where you're coming from, and great wisdom of advice. And those voices that want you to run, absolutely. And I love what you said about the more we resist it, the more they will be persistent. That is so true. I mean, we need to acknowledge when those voices come in, not just ignore them, but let them know what we intend to do instead. So I wanted to ask, you mentioned great books that you mentioned, and I see that someone already ordered it in the chat. So I love this. I love it.
Oh,
I
good.
know you mentioned the first book, When Things Fall Apart. What was the author of that one?
Pema Chodron. And she actually just released a book, I think it was before the pandemic, and I think it was called, oh my gosh, I have them all up here. Welcoming the Unwelcome, which is another great kind of what I was talking about earlier about embracing discomfort. Like when those things come up, it's like, oh, hi. Yep, you're back. I know this anxiety well. You're an old friend. Like, it's okay.
Mm.
Like, welcome that. Don't try to push it out.
Oh, wow. Sounds like I'm going to add to my library as well. Thank you so much. And you have a TED Talk in November. Tell us
Yes,
about
November. Well, it's called Start with the Why, Start with the Who, not the Why, transforming yourself from the inside out. And yeah, it's going to be, it's a process. I didn't expect it to be as grueling as it is, but I'm glad I got the script approved and we're going to, go forward with, I think it's November 5th, but yeah, I can post a
available?
link.
Yeah, please do. Is it available online as well, or is it just in person?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a virtual TED Talk. So yeah,
Oh,
it'll be
good.
online. So yeah, I can post
Yeah, please
the
do.
link. Yeah.
That would be amazing. Wow. Wow. So I want to open it up for any other comments or questions for Jen. Ipek?
Jen, I loved your story. Thank you so much for sharing. And it made me think of one thing that I always tell my clients. I tell them, whenever you feel something, sit with it, like feel it. And as soon as, and label it. Oh, this is anxiety. Oh, this is fear. Oh, this is worry, whatever. The moment you label it, you stop it from festering further.
Yep.
So that you're not putting it under the rug. You're seeing it. I see you and I accept it, but I am the master of my mind. I'm taking over. And as soon as I feel better, I'm gonna let you go. So that is exactly what you were saying, like sitting in the driving seat, and being the master, rather than letting the emotions or experiences rule who we are being or how we are feeling. We start to become the master.
Yep. And the interesting, I just wanted to add one thing on that real quick. The interesting, and this just actually happened yesterday, is I also in the beginning thought like, it's not black and white either. This whole mastering and journey, it's not about, oh, now that I do that, it never comes up. It never happens. Like things will come up. Even yesterday, something came up. But what I notice is the more you work with it, the faster you're able to spot it. And the faster you can move through it, right? Versus just kind of letting it linger, like you said, out there. And then it just kind of takes over. It doesn't go away and it doesn't have to. It's just how you kind of interact with life. And it's just, the more you do it, it's just like practice. It gets easier and move through it faster.
Absolutely. You become like when it's starting to come, oh, it's coming. Okay, it's coming. I'm feeling a little bit anxious today and it's going to pass. And it takes less and less time to get over it.
Yep. Absolutely. That's where also the somatic work for me came in big, because I feel a lot of it first in my body, because that's an indicator like, oh, even if I don't recognize it mentally, I can say, oh, I can start to feel something starting. It's brewing. So it's also really good. That's why I'm a big advocate for getting really into our bodies. You mentioned meditation earlier. That's great. Just know your body really well. It's such a powerful, wise tool for us to use in that way too.
That's right. Very, very good points. We have time for one more question, comment, and then we have one more speaker. Joseph.
Just something real quick for Jen. What you said is powerful. And, I'm also in the leadership industry as well as I train leaders, but you brought up the very valid point. And who are you is what I always ask. And I actually have them write it down. And I was just referred to a CEO that's been in the company for 30 years. And I sat down before him. In the first 5 minutes, I asked him to write down, who are you? You know how long it took him to actually write down one thing about him that he knew who he was? About half an hour.
Yeah.
I snatched the paper
believe it.
from him. I've snatched the paper from him and I said, so what does this mean? He says, Joseph, honestly, I don't even know anymore. And that's where we started to get in. And he told me, and I was humbled because he told me, he said, Joseph, nobody's ever asked me that. Everybody stays away because they think I'm untouchable. And I said, no, but that's just not myself. Another thing that you brought up, and I asked them as well, I said, where's your personal and your professional life going? No, I want to try to find that balance. It's the biggest mistake that you want to have. You want to try to find, and you hit the word right on, harmony. You want to find that harmony within everything in your life. Another concept, you said flow. If you've ever heard of Bruce Lee, be like water, let it flow. So you are fascinating. I love what you do. I love you as a person. You are outstanding, my friend. Keep on going.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. I ask myself that question every day, actually, Joseph, is who am I? And it's an interesting question to ask yourself because it can be hard if you haven't really sat down and thought about it, because we are more than one thing. That's the other message I like to get out to leaders is, yeah, you have a title. I work for a vice president. Yeah, you're a vice president. You know what you all also are? You're a mother, you're a friend, you're, an immigrant, you're so many things. You're not just, I think leaders especially have a hard time in corporations of being over-identified with, I'm this thing. I'm an executive, I'm a CEO, I'm a whatever. You're so much more than that. And if you can just take a step back and really understand who you are, the whole you, yeah, then everything else becomes easy. You don't need to ask what's balance or what, it just happens naturally.
It just happens.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Awesome.
Beautiful words. Oh my goodness, Jen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Definitely, we will reach out again, and please put the information on your TED Talk there. Before we get really quickly to our last storyteller with a powerful story, I want to say hello really quick to Gabe. He just came on. He is actually also one of the first speakers I had in my very first rally in June 2020. And he's going to be at the in-person event, October 15th, speaking as well. Gabe, real quickly, look. It's a poster. True. Anyway, I just wanted to give him a shout out. Thank you so much. Tom, I've met also through the Houston Writers Guild. He is our last storyteller. And Tom is so creative, so gifted in just anything dealing with art, digital art, animation, graphics. He has his own company. But not only that, he has one of the biggest hearts I know. We volunteered together for the Houston Writers Guild in the leadership role. He's brought such a beautiful and creative, different set of things to think about. I love his out of the box thinking. And I always remember we had a board meeting and he was just, doodling, and he came up with this amazing visual representation of what was said at that meeting. And I thought that was so brilliant, just the way his mind works. I'm so thankful that you are here, Tom, and that we've kept in touch. I know you have gone through quite a journey of perseverance and of courage, and I really admire that so much, and that you're willing to share a little bit about that today.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, Andrea, I do have to tell you, that's kind of a large business card to give anybody. So, a poster you have, I thought to myself,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, that's a big business card. That's the first thing I thought of. So yes, I am a professional artist, and you can see some of my pieces here. And it's really funny because I'm listening to everybody, and these are all hard acts to follow. It's like, so I'll just say, yeah, what Joseph said, what Jennifer said, I'll just go through. Yes, ditto. So yeah, I was born with the gift of art, and kind of to go through the chapters really fast because it brings in a context for all the stuff for today, and that is I came through since I can remember drawing and, art. And I do come from the BC era, which means before computers. So if anybody, yeah, it's always before computers. So it's like, people go, what? And I'll show them the scars on my hands. I say, see where this comes from? Cutting and pasting. And they take a few minutes and go, what? Your keyboard was broken? I said, there were no keyboards. I was cutting and pasting. And they went, oh, that's where that comes from, so, but anyway, so when I came up through school, just kind of, everybody could, everybody could draw really well, right? You ever seen like kindergartens and first graders who can really draw really well? Well, typically, developmental wise, when you start getting into 7th, 8th grade and stuff, you see a lot of kids, their art kind of wanes off, and mine just kind of kept going. Well, then I found out, until I got into college, that the two halves of your brains develop, and one part's creative and the other part's literal, that knows language and everything. So my creative half of my brain was like going super fast, and I didn't find out till I got into college how difficult math was for me growing up. And so I found out in college that there was a thing for that. And everybody heard that book, Drawing with the Right Side of Your Brain, which talks about the two halves of the brain, and the difference between people that can draw and people that can kind of think they can draw. And so there's a big difference between the two. So the reason I put all this stuff up into context is there's kind of this pattern that, when you get into, you get out of high school and you hear the speeches of going to college, and it's the next plateau you go to in your life and your career. And then you finish college, and then they tell you about the next step, oh, you're getting out there into the real world and working in careers and all this kind of good stuff. But there seems to be this weird void between when you go work for the corporations and stuff, which I've done the same thing, just like Jennifer had said. There's no speech that's in between there, between when you get your career and then whatever the next thing is, whether that's retirement or something like that. And so nobody tells you that when you get to this point down here in your career, you're overqualified, or you're too old, or you're too, you start getting that. Now, somewhere all in between here is when I got this. I mean, you'll ever see things, it's one of those things that you hear in these spy movies and everything. And by the way, I'll just let you all know now, I refer everything to movies. And since I have a creative background, everything's movies, right? Well, in all the James Bond movies, spy movies, you have a plot that goes this way. Well, you ever heard of that phrase, something that goes sideways? Something that goes sideways because the plot's this way, it's linear, and all of a sudden this happens and nobody expects it. Well, all of a sudden about, I would say maybe 7 years ago, I kind of had a ground zero attack of neurological issues. And all of a sudden I couldn't use my hands and my legs. And so I started going to neurologists. And of course I went to like I've heard Alicia say, I've gone to a doctor and I can't find anything, and here's some medication, and go to the doctor, can't find anything. And then it went dormant for a couple of years and everything was fine. I went about my life and everything. And a couple of years later than that, I had another ground zero attack, and this one was even worse. And this got to be where I couldn't use my hands and I'd get all gnarly and stuff. And so then I went to go see a whole different set of neurologists then. And of course they did all the tests and all this kind of good stuff and everything. And the weird thing is, they'll say, okay, you have all these symptoms. They go through the bullet points, but they won't say what it comes from. Okay. So, they said, okay, yes, you have neuropathy. Yes, you have, partial periodical paralysis, and, you have all these things, but we just don't know where it comes from. So they're searching for everything from MS to ALS to, everything. And so to kind of hear all this, being an artist and everything, where you kind of need these, then all of a sudden, here comes a visitor knocking on the door. Hello, I'm depression. And they'll go, hey, let me on in, and after a while, when you start getting this, oh yeah, and by the way, one of the things that even starts to pile more onto the kind of Jenga pile is that I got laid off like less than a year ago. So you start adding all that stuff up together. And like Andrea said, I do have my own studio that I formed years ago, and I put, in a box, an emergency break glass kind of thing. And as soon as I got laid off, I went and broke it and, got my studio going again. And I kind of call myself the reluctant businessman, because in the meantime, while I'm kind of interviewing for a job somewhere, I'm still running my studio. So, to pay the bills and stuff. So if I get another client, I'll just go, I'm the reluctant business guy. So I'm like, oh, geez, I got another client. I'm successful again. Oh, shucks, and you're just going, oh, geez, and it's one of the kind of things that, if any of you ever seen the movie City Slickers? I used to do this. So when I used to work at this studio years ago, and I'd have to pitch clients and then I'd have to close clients and all this kind of good stuff. And this goes back to the same thing of not fitting in a particular mold. Well, for some of you that might have known me in the past, I'm from the other side of the Sabine River, known as Louisiana. So, there's kind of a certain amount where our patience gets really short and we just, rubber meets the road kind of people. And so when I saw this movie, City Slickers, and there's this old cowboy that's in there, and he gives, Billy Crystal, the lead actor, some advice, and he says, the meaning of life is this. And of course he says a finger, he goes, no, it's one thing. Meaning of life is one thing, and then everything else is crap. And so when I started pitching clients, I just, I figure out what that one thing is. Okay. And when I figure out what that one thing is, everything else that we can build on top of there was just gravy, right? So we always have to figure out what that one thing is. And so that's where I started learning about the word focus. Okay. And so once you get that, that focus, then, and that's kind of the main topic I'm kind of building my discussion around, is because once you find out what this is, okay, then a lot of stuff doesn't mean anything or as much as this does. Okay. And so there was a lot of times when, like I say, but currently the last 25 years of my career has been in 3D animation. And so the studio that I run is, I do a lot of 3D animation for Fortune 50 clients. And there was, a lot of times I was at another particular studio in Houston, and I had about 5 guys working for me, and this client had given us a movie, and they said, just, some DVD movie, and it says, I want a video that looks exactly like the beginning of this movie. And all of the guys on my crew just said, we can't do this. This took like 300 artists like a year to do and everything. I said, man, you guys aren't getting this. This is what my job was, is to figure out what this is. So I figured out what this is and what he meant by that. Okay. And once I showed the guys what they meant, this is what he means. He doesn't mean make this Avatar movie. He means this. Okay. And if we figured out what that is, and we brought it back to the client, and they went, that's exactly what we're looking for. And so these guys were just like flabbergasted. How in the world did you figure that out? I said, well, you got to figure out what this one thing is, So, so it's kind of like, the stuff I'm dealing with now, because a lot of times, things come in and get cloudy and that kind of good thing, because the thing with depression is that, it meets you there every morning. And just like, IPEC had said, it's something that, okay, you get over there. I already recognize who you are. So get over there. I'm busy doing this today. I got this one thing that I need to do today. It's this one thing, right? And everything else needs to take a back seat. And I remember somebody had asked me one time, and I've taught both of my kids this about, focusing. So you focus on do this and nothing else matters for that time until you finish that, which is also a way if anybody's dealt with agile and sprints and things like that, management, corporate management, that's the same philosophy that they have. It's like you have something from beginning to end. Doesn't matter. It can be long or short. So long as you end it, you begin it and end it. And so, anytime I'm creating any kind of artwork or anything like this, there's a beginning and an end to it. And so anytime I'll try to accomplish something, it drives me nuts to start something and not finish it, And so that's why to kind of, help myself deal with things, I'll start something and finish it. And that's why my wife loves me, because I'm the house husband that takes care of everything around the house. And so because it has a beginning and an end to it, I finished the kitchen, so it's something that I've begun and finished. Now, the thing that's a little bit more bizarre, which is the whole mix. By the way, this whole big thing is it kind of helps about being a, if it's successful to be a fine artist, to be tortured, then I'm going to be a really amazing artist. So I'm going to tell you all right now. So because there was one, and this just a tiny side note. Is anybody going to the Van Gogh exhibit? Not the Van Gogh experience, the Van Gogh exhibit that was at the museum. Well, you've got this linear thing that goes through his life that you're looking at. And one thing, especially, is sympathize with other artists. And so when I'm watching his artwork and going through his, through his life and stuff, by the time it got to the end, my heart was just hurting about, his life that he had gone through, and, that he had gone through depression and all this kind of good stuff. And at the very end, it was like, it was hard for me to exit that exhibit to know all the stuff he had gone through. And then we go into the, little marketing thing, and they're selling Van Gogh cups and Van Gogh calendars. And here I am almost on the verge of tears just because of what he went through, and everybody else is like, oh, I want a Van Gogh t-shirt. And I'm like, I got to get out of here, So, so the latest thing is actually a big blank, because they still have no idea. And, as far as the neurologists go, I'll tell them, I say, well, you know what? And the more I start to do this, where you have to face things, the more that I don't sound like this, the more that I start talking like that. And then my language, and then this is how I used to sound whenever I moved here to Houston. So I told my neurologist, I said, you know what, I'm going to go away for a year, and then I'm going to come back. And hopefully my symptoms will be bad enough to where you'll find something, So in the meantime, I just have to be careful. Like this pencil, this drawing that you see back here, I did with pencil. I probably can't do that. I can do some of these again, but I probably can't do this one because it takes pressure for pencils, and my hands will just fail after a while. So, and then as far as some other days, for anybody that deals with long illnesses and things like that, where they say you have good days and you have bad days, and there's just some days you just wake up and you cannot get out of bed. If you try to, you're just crawling along the ground, and I hear some people say, and it's actually really true, about the healing factors of gardening, things like that, because sometimes I'll get my fingers into the earth, and I'll do some gardening and stuff and work outside. Oh, which, by the way, I forgot to tell you all, I live on 100 acres of land with in-laws have like a herd of cows and stuff. So every once in a while, I'll go out for, since, I lost my therapist whenever I lost my job. So I go out and sit with the cows and talk to them, and, they just move back, I'll try to translate what in the world that means. So, so anyway, that's like I said, that's pretty much for my story. Just like everybody else had said, it's an ongoing thing. I'm one of those kind of things too, where it's kind of funny, because when somebody had told me one time, because I've heard after a while, you're just going, okay, you people just got to be kidding me, because after a while, I'd gotten a rejection, hundreds of rejections so far, just by the way, in less than 6 months. One of the rejections is that you don't have enough experience in digital. And I went, and that's where my, cleft in the middle of my forehead came in. I said, I have more digital experience than you've been alive. And I said, have you ever heard of MySpace? They're going like, no. Okay, then you then you don't have enough digital experience yourself, And so, and I'll tell them, I say, oh yeah, by the way, when I worked at Halliburton, we had this little thing called the internet that was brand new that they brought in to these computers, and they just kind of look at you funny, kind of thing. So, and just to kind of end with my second career, which anybody who's a commercial artist or in advertising or anything has what they call a second career, and that's probably going to be a lot of this stuff, to where you get into galleries and things like that. So, if these start going away, I'll just make it to one that I can hold the brush, and I'll just keep on making, just keep on making brush strokes, So anyway, that's it for me. I thank you for inviting me to speak, Andrea, and man, it was great listening to everybody. It was a hard act to follow. Jeez, I was listening to everybody going, oh man, I got, geez, I was like, oh man, I can't share that story anymore. Somebody took my answer. Oh no, So,
Tom,
which,
thank you.
which, by the way, I was going to say that one of the things about, and this comes with like, and because Jennifer had brought this up and it really kind of resonated with me. And it was like, I came up through the corporate world too, and there's certain things, the little slots that you have to follow, like, like holes with pegs that got to fit, right? And so a lot of us figure out that a lot of those things don't, they'll tell you stuff. Oh, you don't have a master's degree in physics and blah, 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 and all this kind of good stuff and everything. And I used to say that when I was at Halliburton, I had somebody who had a master's degree in advertising, and she was in my office every 10 minutes. Okay. And I was like, well, wait a minute, I don't have that. So a lot of those things I've found out throughout my life and career, those things just kind of go away. And, and the reality, once again, like I say, with clients that I deal with nowadays, they don't ask me my degree or where pedigree or where I went to. They care about this one thing, and anytime I sit with a client, they want to know, are you going to help us sell our widgets? Yes, I will. The biggest thing I found out in success about anything is just listening. And, and when I'll listen to, of course, listen to my wife, listen to my clients or my clients to be, I'll listen to them and figure out what this thing is. And then after that, it's really easy, because I said, I'll give them a storyboard and I say this, and they'll go, man, that's exactly what we want. Great, sign here, and then we go and we do business, and so and just like I said, to kind of end with, I mean, that's what my particular, and it helps with anybody, any profession, but my profession is when somebody has something in here and they want to get it down to here, they can't do that. But when I do it, they go, yeah, that's exactly what I want. That's what I had in mind. So anyway,
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks again.
Thanks you, Tom. Oh my gosh, such a wealth of information. And thanks for sharing your story and how you continue on despite what life challenged you with. And to your point of tough acts to follow, I'm placed in that situation so many times, but I start catching myself now, because really you don't need to follow anyone or anything, because no one can be you. So even if the topics have been addressed, no one can address them the way you are going to address them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think someone else on this call, I don't know who it was, I think he left, it was Will, saying that I wish I could walk the talk of the things I tell others to do. Well, yeah, that's one of the things I need to continue to walk the talk of as well, is just don't worry about everyone else. Worry about you and what's that dream? What does your voice want to say? And-
Somebody did ask me that one time where they were saying like, hey, I've got somebody who's, my daughter's just graduating from Baylor. Can you give her some advice about getting into the, visual arts industry and everything? I said, sure. I said, have you ever heard of all those things that says, you ever heard of right place, right time? It's all who you know, talent, a little bit of luck, opportunity knocks at the door, that kind of thing. And they said, yeah, well, you have to have all those. And they just went, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. I said, no, hold on a second. I didn't say you had to have 100% of all that. It takes a little bit of talent, a little bit of, a little bit of this, a little bit of luck, a little bit of who you know, a little bit of meeting people, a little bit of right place, right time. And there's this formula that helps with that. Because I've seen really talented people that'll just sit in a box and not do anything. They won't shake anybody's hand. They won't go out. They won't meet people. And then at the same time, I've seen somebody who's actually had a master's degree in graphic design and couldn't hold a job because they were not qualified to work with, but they had the piece of paper that got them hired. And once they got in there, they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
yeah.
I hear you. I know. Thank you so much, all of you, for staying to finish Tom's story. Jen, did you have your hand up? Did you have a comment?
I just wanted to first thank Tom for his great story and also reliving my childhood with the City Slickers and comment. And that's true. I remember that from the movie. What's the one thing that's important? And yeah, that just really hit home for me. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's just, I don't know. It just seems kind of one of those things that it's just, of course, being a visual person, everything, you kind of soak all this stuff in. And for me, it's like movies and experiences and things like that. And I think somebody might have mentioned where you get maybe influences from different things. And some things when you pick up tidbits just like that tiny little piece of wisdom from a movie, and then you use it. And that's kind of the funny thing, but it's like, wait a minute, I didn't read that in a book somewhere or some sort of official something, but that's the thing that's kind of crazy about this life is that, you try something out and it works. And then sometimes you'll see other things. And this happens with people who have their own businesses. You come across things, you go like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Oh, that works. And you write that down, you put Post-its, that one works. You add it all up together and all of a sudden, hey, there's my business.
That's right.
And then when you try that and you meet with potential clients and they resonate with you, then all of a sudden, one final thing I was going to say too. One of the things that I've noticed too, this will drive, and I've learned this way from even when I was in school, is competition, especially when you're dealing with something who's got, in a competitive market like what I do. This is one of the things I advise, do not always try to go after your competition because it'll eat you alive. The best thing you want to do is focus on yourself and making yourself better. And I used to do this for years, and you put horse blinders on, and it's in a good way because you're making yourself better. You want to be, and then find something that you like to do. And you can see I've got different styles of artwork because this is what I like to do. And after a while, I decided to take these off after so many years. And you're looking, you're going like, what are all these people doing behind me? And you had no idea that you were just way ahead of your competition. And I found out after a while, on doing this for so many years, I found out some of my biggest competitors wasn't even here in the United States. It was like I was competing with a lot of other countries that were doing what I was doing. And I had no idea. It didn't really mean anything to me, except for it just kind of enlightened me and kind of encouraged me to just keep going, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you are, Tom, and keep being you and keep doing you. I know we've got a lot of recommendations for books today, and I know we have a recommendation for a TED Talk. So, oh my gosh, so many great resources, so many great people on. Thank you, all the speakers and all of those that have participated today. Next rally will be the last Saturday of the month in October online. If you happen to be around the Houston area, drop by October 15th, Rice University. I put the link in the comments. There's also a link on my LinkedIn profile. So I would love to see you.